Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. I was looking for a way to say good XXX that would work for everybody, but I couldn't make it on time. Welcome to the episode 7 of FullEnrich Friends today. You get, for people who are coming back, you'll see familiar faces and Michael and me. And for the new one, hi. But for everybody, we're lucky to have Sean Irvine from Optic today. Will tell his story of go-to-market and how FullEnrich fits in it. It will be Sean will be the star of the back half of the show, so please hang on and power through the front half of it with Mike running the show. Mike, take it away.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have Sean and anyone who's here with us today, especially in Ireland. Great to have you here with us. Little fact, I know I don't have my last name here in front of me. My last name is Petery, Petery, which is really a clerical error. My last name is actually Petry, but somehow a couple generations back, they added a second E. So my ancestors come from the County Mayo area, which I am curious. I like Ancestry.com as an American. Maybe there's more curiosity of where ancestors were from. I wonder if I'm in Ireland. If I'm curious to do Ancestry.com just to see who were the weak ones who left during the potato famine, who went over to America at that point. That might be a fun use of Ancestry.com for those in Ireland. Where's everybody at? Just for a point of reference, I am in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, which is right in between Philadelphia and New York City. I live in a little town called Yardley, about an hour from New York, an hour from Philly. We've got Fred in San Francisco. We've got Sean in Derry today.
Yes, yeah, Derry in the northwest of Ireland.
But if you want to pop into the chat, where are we at?
Castlebar is Lee asking. Michael, does it ring a bell?
Castlebar. Where is that? I don't know. We've got Reno. We've got London. Scotland. Lee, awesome. We've got some Irish love in some of the things we're going to be talking about today. I saw one of those. I don't know if you see those street interviews on YouTube sometimes where they're interviewing. It's a guy with headphones on. He puts the headphones on the person he's talking to on the street, and he plays a song, and the person has to guess who the band is and what the song is. There was a good one with Cillian Murphy last week, and Cillian was talking about some bands out of Ireland, and I checked some of those out. Fontaines DC was a pretty good one from what he mentioned, and I found out that they got the name Fontaines, at least, from The Godfather, from Johnny Fontaine. So that's where the name Fontaines DC comes from, and then DC was added later when they found out there was another band called the Fontaines out of LA, so Dublin City. Yeah, originally, great band, by the way. Check out Fontaines DC. Let's hop into our trivia question. 500 credits to the winner. Oh. Try not to cheat. We can't stop you from doing it, but try not.
Can I win as well, Michael? Or am I
You're disqualified. Yeah. But someone from Optic maybe will win this one. Okay, This famous ocean liner, built in Belfast, set sail from Southampton on its maiden voyage on April 10th, 1912, and never reached its destination in New York. This famous ocean liner, built in Belfast, set sail. There we go. All right. Look, we might have to get a little generous here. We got a lot of people who got this one.
Within the same second.
Yeah, we're gonna get some. Dude, we had somebody last week, and if you're here today, apologies, but we had somebody last week who did not answer the trivia question. They were not the winner, and they told our support that they were. They emailed our support person for the credits. So shame on you for doing that. But all right, cool. We'll keep track of everybody from. Okay, if you keep saying Titanic in the chat, we're gonna keep track of when these come in. So there was maybe 4 or 5 of you right away, but we appreciate the enthusiasm there.
Can I just say Stefan's answer is impressive. Southeast coast of France.
Stefan's still telling us where he's from, I think, which is great. Try a harder question. Well, thank you, Laura. That has definitely crossed my mind over the last couple of minutes as I've seen this come in. But by the way, if you've been here weeks past, this is not typically the reaction. I have to give more hints usually, but I wanted to find something Irish related. This one seemed very, very apt. So, all right, cool. We're going to go through some news. We're going to get into, after the news, some events that we're a part of, and then we'll get into really what hopefully I think a lot of us are here for, which is to hear from Sean and hear about Optic. They've been a partner of FullEnrich for, I've known the guys over there for probably close to a year now. Just an awesome team, awesome product that we're super pumped to have here today, and just pumped to be able to partner with in general. So look, yesterday from Florida in the United States, we sent a rocket to the moon, which is something that just feels like it's worth mentioning. I think we get so bored by maybe things that are outside of our phone or reality TV, speaking for my wife there, where I don't think I could get her to even look at the TV for 2 seconds when this rocket was lifting off last night. But funny enough, it's not going, I didn't realize this until I was doing a little bit more research. They're not getting out on the moon. They're just going around it and then coming back, but they will be traveling further than anyone has ever traveled from Earth. So they're going about 252,000 miles on this trip, which is kind of cool. And the actual lunar landing is probably going to be around 2028. I know that's not the most, look, it is pretty tech, actually. I don't know if you saw, 10 minutes before they were about to launch, they had in real time, they had to solve an issue. Which was very data related. So that was kind of interesting to see take place. Moving on, OpenAI raises $122 billion at an $852 billion valuation. I'm getting deja vu with this stuff. I feel like every other week we're talking about OpenAI raising a tremendous amount of money. And look, basically what we're talking about with OpenAI, and probably you can insert a few other companies into this now, they're not tech companies in the traditional sense anymore. These are how you look at a power grid, the infrastructure behind so much of what we're going to do. When you're raising money at that valuation, it's like they're kind of coming for every angle of human life, and to be kind of an ever-present product in our lives to some degree, or an infrastructure that facilitates a lot of how we live as humans when you're raising that much money. So interesting. Apple, the company, turned 50 years old yesterday. Just worth mentioning. So they haven't put out a ton of great products. I don't know if anyone else feels that way over the last decade or so, except for these headphones. I think these headphones, the Apple Max headphones, might be the best product that has come out of Apple HQ in the last recent memory. So, all right, that's some maybe not exciting but newsworthy items, and we'll get to Fred now to talk about some newsworthy events that are coming up from FullEnrich.
Yeah, everybody, if you like connecting with us live, whether it is in person or virtually like here, there's a couple opportunities coming up. We'll be at SaaS Talk in Austin the week after next. It starts on the 14th of April. We'll be sponsoring the opening party. So if you're around Austin or in Texas in general and want to have a drink on us, please hit me up and I'll get you in. SaaS Talk is a conference mostly for early stage startups. So there's a lot of talk tracks and education and a few probably promotions as usual in those such conferences. So if you're interested in that conversation, please join us. We have a couple of webinars with our dear friend Giulio Segantini, who is calling himself the king of cold calling. A very eccentric, super nice guy, also extremely knowledgeable in the art of cold calling. So we have a more entertainment-centric show we call Dial and Sweat every other Friday, where he makes, cold calls live, and there's a challenge with someone else. And it's a good way to see cold calling happen and unfold in front of your eyes, but also get some good lessons on how to do it right. And then we have a little bit more academic version of that with Giulio over the course of the next few months, which will be, cold calling school and how to break down how to be good at prospecting in general, from a good opener to good objection handling to how you make the best of a good connection afterwards once the person's hung up. So that's coming up once a month, starting on April 26th, I believe. Then we'll be at SaaStr. It's in the Bay Area in San Francisco in early May. So you can find us there too. And finally, for the lucky ones among you who are in the Paris area, we're throwing an event with the Business Operator Network, which is a network of mostly RevOps people, on the 21st of April in Paris. So same thing. If you're interested, if you want to know more, I'll send you all the links in the recap of this call, later today. And if you cannot find something that I mentioned, please email me back and I'll get you into whatever you're interested in. Michael, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen real quick as I pass over to Sean momentarily. But can we bring this into the stream here? Okay. So FullEnrich, we're a data waterfall. Yes, we're a data provider. We bring accurate data. We bring verified data into our partners like Optic, and then also for our direct users. There's a really important piece to what we do that I think makes our partnership with Optic really great. And I think it also allows us to fit in very well and facilitate AI workflows. And it's not just because we bring quality data. It's because we keep out the data that should not be there, right? So how the waterfall works is we're calling on our sub-processors in our waterfall. We get the data back from them. We don't at that point just say, oh, okay, cool. We got the data back from our waterfall. Let's send it over to Optic, for example, or let's provide it to our users. We verify the data in real time. 30% of the data that comes back from our waterfall, we don't pass that back to our clients and partners. We take on the cost for that. There's no credits consumed, which is incredibly important because when you're operating with agents or any kind of AI assisted motion, the AI relies on accurate data. If it has bad data, it can't perform. And so we're not just allowing you to operate on great data, we're keeping you from operating on bad data, which is, I think, almost equally important today. And we'll see more and more so in the future. I'm sure a lot of you here have some sort of either agent, you're using Claude or MCP, or you're running APIs, and you're relying on not just good data, but you're relying on not having bad data influence those agents' ability to work. So with FullEnrich and our ability to keep the bad data out, AI agents can actually perform, sender reputation gets protected, sequences can launch easier, and you're talking about little to no wasted spend now on compute costs. Because again, we're filtering out the bad data. We're not just bringing you quality data. I think it's a really important piece, and I think it makes for us to be a great partner for these embedded product situations like the one we have with Optic. As I mentioned, we've known Optic for close to a year, met Kieran and Sam probably close to a year ago now. And since then, the company has just been going like this, from funding and hiring and client acquisition. It's been nothing but growth at Optic, and for, I think, really good reason. It was described to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Sean, and tell me this is a stupid way to put it, but it's like, hey, imagine if some of those engagement tools that we're all familiar with from Outreach and Salesloft, imagine if they were built today. Imagine if those product and engineering teams had the chance to build them now, as opposed to with the technology that we were using in the 2010s. It might look something like Optic. So we've got Sean here, the head of revenue and growth over at Optic, to kind of take us through exactly what they've been building, how they're influencing go-to-market globally here. So Sean, we'll pass it over to you.
Perfect, guys. And look, thanks so much for having me as well. I'm relatively new to the Optic team, although I know the company a while. So as you mentioned, we're based up in the north west of Ireland. It's not a very big place, as you can probably imagine as well. So we tend to know a lot of companies, and there's crossover. So a really, really good tech hub we're growing here in the city. I've been here about 3 weeks. So relatively new to the journey as well. However, I have followed the company for a significant amount of time in the background. And as you mentioned, you know Kieran, and you know Sam as well. If it's okay, I'll just give a very brief high level, just introduction to Optic and why we ultimately exist, the vision. Yeah, is that okay if I just jump
Sounds
straight in
great.
there?
Sounds
Perfect.
great. Let's do it.
So in terms of the company itself, everybody that has been involved with Optic's existence has worked in some form of sales or marketing or development or business development. And what we did was, I suppose, we put our heads together and tried to understand all of the different problems that exist when we're talking about go to market. And the first one that I suppose in our chain was always going to be the data. So big shout out to FullEnrich. We wouldn't be able to do what we do without you guys, genuinely. And you make our life so much easier with really, really great, accurate data. And as you mentioned, you're preventing us from getting the bad stuff, as well as supplying us with the really hot numbers and email addresses and so forth as well, so we can then pursue our goals. Now, when we go into organizations and we do an analysis of their tools, one of the biggest things that we ultimately see is they're using maybe even 10 to 15 different pieces of technology to perform their go to market. So that's anywhere from different data providers, enrichment tools, outreach tools. So you rightly mentioned outreach, Apollo, Salesloft, etc., etc. And a lot of the time what happens is all these different tools, they struggle to speak to each other. They're pulling different information from different places, and it's very hard for the reps, the CRO, the CMO to identify where the source of that revenue has come from as well. So what we do is we bring all of those different fragmented tools into one centralized place, and then you can carry out your go-to-market via Optic. Now, our mantra is human guided, AI amplified. We're not trying to remove the human from the loop, because, to be honest, without people, you lose lots and lots of the personality and the innovative ideas and that responsiveness to rejection as well. And I know that you asked earlier on, or you mentioned, Frédéric, about a couple of those cold calling sessions and things like that. I'm a huge fan of seeing other people's approaches and seeing what their openers are like and things like that. So I'd be keen, even in the chat, if people would drop in what's your favorite opener for a cold call, just to get a bit of a variety of what works for people as well, if that's okay. But yeah, so basically that's the idea behind us, why we do the things the way we do them. In terms of the Optic offering, I can share the screen maybe and walk
Let's see
through
it.
a little bit,
Yeah,
if
let's
that's
see
okay.
it.
Yep.
Yeah, let's see it. I
Perfect.
know, like a question on my mind too, because I've heard that before, and something that I think would be interesting for everybody here is like, what do we mean by, like, where does the human stay in the loop versus where does AI take over? And I'm sure maybe you're going to touch on that in the screen share that you're going to do here, but I think that'd be interesting for everybody to hear.
Yeah, so
There's always a little bit of still like hesitation of like, do we want the AI to run wild? Is it better to have a human in the loop? And it seems like the latter is certainly where most of us want to be.
yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with your statement as well, to be honest. So,
And if you want to redo what you just did, it worked for a second.
perfect. That's great. So,
Everybody, for those of you who were there, I think it was our second episode where Michael had the worst technical issues. It is not a repeat of this one. We just figure out how to share Sean's screen.
perfect.
There we go. Don't move. There you go.
So we're good. Everybody can see.
Here we are.
Good stuff. So I suppose at a very high level, talked about the differentiator between ourselves and the market, and why we do things the way we do them. Every day, what we want is simplicity for our SDRs or our full cycle AEs. And what I mean by that is they log into a platform, they know exactly how their day is going to look and the highest priority tasks that they're going to have to engage with. So what I'm showing here is, I suppose, the focus for today, all of my different tasks, any deals that I'm working on, any things that are high priority, critical, medium, low, right down to my pipeline as well. So if there are any deals that I need to, I suppose, execute actions on and carry out specific tasks, this really centralizes your day and allows you to then be as efficient as possible from a go-to-market perspective in the morning. Now, what I want to focus predominantly on within this presentation is what happens after we engage with FullEnrich, and what do we do with that, and how do we amplify the human in the loop efficiently, and make sure that our reps aren't spending time doing all of these tedious admin tasks that are taking up a lot of their time and taking them away from actually getting on the phones or executing their game plan, doing their emails, doing their video messaging, etc., etc. So typically what we would do is within a discovery function, we'll be able to pull lots of information in via you guys to be able to find the most accurate data, the best data. And as you can see here, we have the beautiful Michael at the very top. So I'm going to use you as an example, Michael. So we go to market, we use AI to find and condense these lots and lots of lists, pulling from lots of different data sources. And then we get Michael's profile in the platform, and we have his contact information. And a lot of the time, let's say if somebody's new to go to market, they'll be like, well, so what? What does that mean? I've got an email now and I can outreach to them. That's great. But you're not revolutionizing, go to market for me. So we'll take that then to the next level. And through a piece of functionality called Optimize, we'll be able to then further enrich Michael as a persona and pull in lots of different information in a summary format. So as an example here, you've got the summary, suggested approach with Michael. You've got his role, the career history, responsibilities, business interests, right down to KPIs and metrics that really matter to Michael. And along with that, you've got your company summary, et cetera, et cetera. So what does this ultimately mean then? This means that instead of spending 20 to 30 minutes per lead per day trying to find the best approach to prospect and Michael's company, any insights into what they're doing in the market. So if it's mergers, if it's acquisitions, if it's potentially if you're operating in the cyberspace and you want to know if there's any big news articles, any plans to be investing in a specific region, technology, et cetera, et cetera. This does all that work for you, so you can really fine tune your message then when you're going to do your outreach. And then ultimately, when you put those into sequences, using our little friend up here, Omni, that will then help you with your outreach from a personalization perspective. A lot of the time when I speak about personalization, it gets lost in translation. People don't really understand what I mean. And ultimately what that means is taking the things that we know about a company or a persona, being able to use your own internal materials and then efficiently translate that into, I suppose, the simplest format for the persona that we're trying to reach to digest. So with the email sequences, you can then upload your white papers, upload any documentation that you have, and using the AI engine in the background, that will then pull critical pieces of information from that and then constrict, or I suppose build out those email campaigns for you in the back end. All the while you can do your outreach directly from here, so phoning, emails, LinkedIn, even setting your appointments all from one centralized place. So again, really drawing back on the need for lots and lots of different tools. And let's say, for example, when you do get in front of the right person, you do your pitch, you have the conversation, you've set the appointment, and then you ultimately hold that appointment in the future. Everybody likes the word opportunity, that's pipeline ultimately, that's why we do this. You can even, I suppose, access your opportunities and build out your opportunities and manage them as well from the Optic solution. So again, it just makes everything really centralized. It makes sure that everything is speaking to each other within the loop. You can always track it back to the original source. And then you can manage all of that as well with your prompts, with Omni Assist, and being able to help you with the journey.
So this is awesome, by the way, Sean. Thanks for, even though, having known you guys for so long, I haven't seen the product that in depth in a while. And I know there's been a lot of great recent updates. And so I can I'm going from top of funnel research basically on prospects all the way through close one. I can manage the entire process in Optic.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Awesome. We've got Lee here. This is a question from Lee. This is not no one gets 500 credits for the answer to this question. I feel like by me just verbalizing this, there's a competition taking place. I don't have to leave this screen to call, email, or have a conversation with insights available. Is the question from Lee.
So Lee, you're absolutely right. Basically, when you log in the morning, if you want to go to market and find brand new people, get all of the information that you need, and then execute upon that, you can do that absolutely from Optic. Additionally to that, it will give you any steps or any tasks that you have to complete within that day as well. So the recommended approach would be, don't go try and find new meat if you've got things there that are outstanding and you need to satisfy, and do your admin. But yeah, it makes all that really easy for you as well. So you're not going to miss anything, is what I would say.
Awesome. What is the research based upon? Like, as Optic is presenting, like me in that example, like, am I as a user of Optic inputting, hey, this is my persona that I'm interested in? Am I using a natural language to communicate that? Am I just based on my FullEnrich website? Does Optic read that and kind of have a sense for who I should be targeting or potential opportunities? What is the kind of the input versus output in terms of Optic being able to understand who I should be targeting?
Yeah, so that really, really good question, Michael, and thanks so much for it. I suppose in terms of we'll start with the persona piece. Natural language, giving prompts, the system will then take that language and pull directly from, things like your LinkedIn's, your Sales Navigators, your Crunchbase, Perplexity, lots of open source AI. But not only is it pulling all that information back, it's validating it as well. So similarly to you guys, we don't want to give you, rubbish or nonsense. We want to give you the most accurate information that you can actually use then in the most efficient way. So it'll categorize it in terms of the most important information that will be usable for the outreach.
Awesome. Is the CRM component a live part of Optic right now? Pablo has a question in the chat. When is the CRM launched?
So yeah, Pablo, absolutely. Everything that I showed you on the screen today is usable. If you want, Pablo, drop me a message on LinkedIn and we can get a demo book. That sounds almost like you're intrigued to maybe get your hands on it. I don't know. Maybe I'm not allowed to do that, Michael, on the call.
Of course you are. Yeah.
That's the sales guy in me. Sorry.
I will connect you, Sean and Pablo.
It's an awesome tool. Our friends here that are FullEnrich users, if anybody has any questions, obviously we can connect you with Sean. We can do our best to try to answer them, but going directly to the source of Optic is the best way to do this. But really exciting. Sean, is there anything you wanted to add before we just wrap here? This is, by the way, you shouldn't have said you're only 3 weeks in. You could have said you were a co-founder of the company. That you walked through this like you've known it for years. So awesome job, man.
I suppose for me and the reason why, I don't want to sound like I'm boasting here, but I've been in SaaS sales for 10 years. I know the problems, I know the pain. And to be honest, if I had Optic maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I would be a lot wealthier than what I am now. And what I mean by that is it would have cut my administration time maybe 35 to 50%. So I could have focused on the bottom of the funnel then more from a sales perspective, because started out in a SaaS company 10 years ago as an SDR. I went through all of the various different, promotions, AE, etc., QRN quotas, things like that. And a lot of the time I was wasting, trying to find the right people, trying to find out if there's intent there, what is real intent, etc., etc. So this cuts through a lot of that noise, and it really helps you execute on the things that really matter. And that's obviously closing deals, winning business, generating pipeline.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you for joining. Thank you to the Optic team for allowing the the partnership to flourish as much as it has. Again, tell your friends about the webinar. Let's get more people to come join us. We're at 10,000 people in here today, which is great. Let's get to 11,000 next week. By the way, next week we'll have Store Leads, another valued partner of FullEnrich, will be joining us. Phenomenal e-commerce data platform that integrates with FullEnrich in a really great way for those who are targeting anybody in the e-commerce space. So we're looking forward to that next Thursday. But Sean, thank you very much again. Thank you to everybody for being here today. We really appreciate you coming and partaking in the chat and calling me out on asking too simple of questions and stuff like that. It's always fun. So thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
Thanks, guys. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.